I am attempting to restrain them, obstruct the trail, but I am becoming weary. I do not understand how much longer I can. The consequence was clear and awful. Our offspring was not merely attempting to discover a method back to us. He was acting as some type of protector, stopping other spirits with dark motives from fleeing. How can we aid? I inquired, resolve replacing the fear. Merely remove me from there, he answered. The rest I can attempt to resolve once we are reunited somehow. The contact began to weaken. Zion's tone was interrupted with noise. I am losing link, power fading. Zion, I yelled into the device. Persist, we are arriving for you. I understand you will. His tone was merely a murmur now. I cherish you both very much. And then quiet. The contact had dropped. Darius already had his device in palm contacting Kai. He spoke rapidly, critically, clarifying the need to accelerate the procedure. I observed him, a new determination growing within me. If administration did not function in period, we would handle matters ourselves. The next 24 hours were a competition against period. Kai utilized all his sway at the morgue and the authorities section to quicken the permission. Darius gathered old labor associates, some with governmental links. I remained residents, awaiting new contacts from Zion, the device always nearby. The sound turned high. He did not contact again that day or the next. Worry grew with every passing hour. Kai assured us that the permission would be released within 48 hours, quick by administration norms, but yet possibly too delayed, according to Zion's alert. On the dawn of the third day, Darius and Kai reached with updates. The permission comes out this afternoon. Kai clarified, his face weary from absence of rest. They arranged the removal for tomorrow dawn. That is too delayed. I answered, recalling Zion's alert. He stated 3 days at most. Today is the third day. Darius and Kai shared significant gazes. We have an alternate scheme. Darius spoke mildly as though afraid of being overheard. It is not permitted, but the burial guardian, Kai finished, Mr. Silas. He concurred to permit us entry tonight post-ending. He will bring the required gear. We will perform all quietly, and then, I inquired, even if we succeed to unlock the coffin, what will we perform? We cannot merely take whatever we discover there. One stage at a time, Darius answered. First, we require to view what is inside. Comprehend what Zion meant by comeback. We passed the day in a state of held worry, readying for the evening. Kai brought shadowy garments for all, torches, and instruments. Darius readied the vehicle with false papers in case we were halted by authorities. I packed meals, fluid, and covers, acting more from parental sense than reason. By 10 p.m., the burial ground had been shut for an hour. We drove there in quiet, each absorbed in own ideas. Mr. Silas was awaiting us at the rear entrance, his face serious but resolute. I have all ready, he stated quietly. The instruments are concealed near the burial. No one arrives here at this time, but we require to be rapid and silent. The burial ground at evening was a fully altered place. Shadows appeared to shift between the burials, and the quiet was interrupted only by the rare call of a bird or the rustle of foliage in the breeze. We trailed Mr. Silas along side trails, evading the main paths where the moonlight rendered us more noticeable. Zion's burial under the large oak appeared to be awaiting us. Beside it, concealed under shrubs, was a small powered digger, the type used for minor building in limited spaces. I lent it from the care team, Mr. Silas clarified. It will conserve us hours of handwork. Kai and Darius instantly began labor, handling the small machine carefully to reduce sound. The soil over Zion's burial was packed post-15 years, but the machine cut through it with astonishing speed. I stood watch, my gaze alert for any shift, my ears keen for any noise that did not belong to the evening. My mobile was in my compartment, silent, but ready for any new reach effort from Zion. Post nearly an hour of labor, the powered digger hit something firm. The noise of the machine striking timber rendered my pulse leap. The coffin, Darius announced in a murmur. Now we require to labor by palm. The three men seized hand diggers and started carefully removing the soil around the coffin, showing its edges. I shifted nearer, incapable to remain away at that vital instant. The coffin appeared well maintained, guarded by the dry soil. "It is a quality coffin," Mr. Silas whispered. "Processed timber closed against damp. Explains why it is so well maintained." When they finally removed sufficient soil to reveal the whole cover, Darius and Kai placed themselves on either side. "Ready?" Darius inquired, gazing at each of us. I agreed, incapable to speak. Kai inhaled deeply, readying for whatever we might discover. Mr. Silas performed the cross sign. Together, the two men raised the coffin cover. The aroma that escaped was not the aroma of decay we dreaded, but a strange, nearly healing scent. A soft azure brightness came from within, lighting the astonished faces of the men. I pushed between them to gaze. Nothing could have readied me for the view that awaited. Zion was there, his form perfectly maintained as though he had been interred yesterday. There were no indications of decay, no indications of the 15 years that had gone. His face appeared slumbering, calm. He donned the identical dark outfit from the service, his palms crossed over his torso. Beneath them, shining with that strange azure brightness, was his aged mobile. "My God," Kai whispered, the expert in him fighting to understand the unfeasible before his gaze. "This cannot be actual." "There ought to only be bones." Darius extended a quivering palm, contacting our offspring's face. "He is warm, not chilly like a remains, not heated like an existing person, merely warm." The view was so unreal, so far outside any known reason or knowledge, that for an instant none of us could shift. It was as though period had been paused inside that coffin, maintaining Zion precisely as he was on the day of his service. Gradually, I shifted ahead and contacted his face. The flesh was solid, flexible, like that of an existing person, but there was no beat, no noticeable inhaling, merely that strange middle temperature, neither existing nor gone. "The device," I noted, "it is shining." It was accurate. The small azure Nokia beneath his palms released that supernatural brightness lighting the inside of the coffin. When I bent to contact it, the display lit on its own, showing a note, "Remove me from here, bring me residence." I have little period. We did not pause. Darius and Kai, with the aid of Mr. Silas, carefully lifted Zion's form from the coffin. He was lighter than he ought to be, as though the substance of his form had been partly substituted by something less thick, less material. Together we covered Zion in the cover I had carried and transported him back to the vehicle. The mobile in his palm continued to shine, now beating like a core, the pace quickening as we drove from the burial ground. No one spoke during the trip. What could we state in the face of something so far past our understanding? We chose to bring him to my residence, the residence where he developed, the last place he existed. It sensed correct. Kai and Mr. Silas assisted us transport him inside, placing him gently on his own mattress, in the chamber that had stayed unchanged for 15 years. I have never viewed anything like it in my whole profession, Kai whispered, yet examining Zion's still form. There are no usual life indications, but there is also no stiffness or any indication of decay. It is as though he is in a fully altered state of substance. The mobile in Zion's palm appeared again, showing a new note. Fluid daylight tunes. We gazed at each other, bewildered, until I comprehended. He is informing us what he requires. I rapidly carried a cup of fluid and held it against his mouth. To our astonishment, he appeared to take in the liquid, though there was no shift in his throat. I opened the drapes, permitting the ascending sun's brightness to cover his face. Darius located the aged radio on the bedside and activated it to a channel playing traditional tunes, the type Zion always favored. The device appeared again. Appreciate, now I require to relax, tomorrow. Kai and Mr. Silas departed shortly post, vowing to come back in the dawn. Both pledged to retain what they had observed a secret. Darius and I stayed in Zion's chamber, one on each side of the mattress, observing our offspring in his unfeasible state, neither existing nor gone. What occurs now? I murmured, holding Zion's still but oddly warm palm. Darius shook his head. I do not understand. We are in unknown area. But he requested us to bring him residence, and we did. Now we require to rely on him. We pass the evening in silent watch. At some point I dozed in the seat next to the mattress. I envisioned Zion, not the youth I had forfeited, but an adult man as he would have been if he had existed. In the vision, he grinned and stated, "It is nearly period, mother, merely a little longer." I aroused at sunrise to a strange buzzing filling the chamber. Darius had also aroused, gazing around bewildered. The origin of the noise was Zion's mobile, which was now shining intensely, the azure brightness beating at an increasingly quick pace. Gradually, nearly imperceptibly at first, Zion's form began to alter. The flesh, which had been deathly pale, obtained shade. The previously stiff digits shifted mildly. The gaze closed for 15 years, quivered beneath the lids, as though in a profound slumber. Darius, I murmured, seizing his palm, something is occurring. The buzzing strengthened, becoming nearly intolerable. The brightness from the mobile expanded, covering Zion's whole form in a shell of brightness. For an awful instant, I thought he might be breaking apart, disappearing before our gaze. But then I realized he was changing. The youth face softened, the edges subtly moving, maturing. The form beneath the service outfit appeared to expand, obtaining mass and stature. It was like observing 15 years pass in a matter of minutes. Period, recovering its usual flow, hastened. And then, as suddenly as it started, all halted. The buzzing went silent. The brightness withdrew into the mobile prior to shutting off fully. The chamber returned to usual, lit only by the ascending sun. Zion opened his gaze. They were no longer the gaze of a 17-year-old lad, but the gaze of a 32-year-old man, the age he would be now. His face had altered, matured, though it was yet unmistakably him. His form had grown, rendering the service outfit firm in the shoulders and brief at the wrists. "Mother," his tone was deeper, more echoing. "Father," we collapsed on him in a frantic embrace, moisture flowing freely. It was unfeasible. It was a wonder. It was our offspring returning from the gone, not as a spirit or a monster, but as an existing, complete man who appeared to have existed every one of the 15 years he had forfeited. How, that was all Darius could state, holding Zion's face in his palms, examining him with wide gaze. Zion grinned, an adult grin with fine creases at the corners of his gaze that had not been there prior. "It is complex. I do not fully comprehend it myself. Period functions differently on the opposite side," he persisted. "It is not straight like it is here. I existed many existences there. I learned things, I developed. When I realized there was a method back, that I could return if the situations were correct." He gazed at the mobile, now plain and ordinary, in his palm. This was the connection, the tie that retained me linked to this realm. And you, too, were the signal that guided me back. "But how is this feasible?" I inquired, yet incapable to fully trust the wonder before me. "Your knowledge does not have terms for this yet," Zion answered mildly. "Parallel measurements, perhaps, or alternate states of awareness. The vital thing is that I am here." I returned, not precisely as I was, but he gazed at his own palms, now larger, stronger, with small marks and roughness that were not there prior. "This form reflects the experiences I had there. the development, the learning, as though I existed those 15 years elsewhere. Darius, ever the practical one, was already reflecting of the consequences. How are we going to clarify this? Permittedly, you are gone. You do not exist in the setup. Zion grinned again. We will have period to determine that. Kai can aid, perhaps a narrative about a wrong identity, loss of memory, something like that. The vital thing is that I am back. His face suddenly became grave. But I am not the only one who discovered the method. Others are attempting to trail. Like I alerted, not all with kind motives. What can we perform? I inquired, resolve replacing the fear. For now, nothing. I closed the entrance behind me as best I could, but we require to be watchful. He gazed out the pane at the realm outside, a realm he had not viewed in 15 years. So many things have altered. I have much to learn about this existence again. In the days that ensued, we observed in amazement as Zion readjusted to existence. His form functioned perfectly, though at times he appeared awkward, as though learning to utilize muscles that had been idle for an extended period. His thoughts was keen, taking in data with impressive speed, adjusting to the device and social alterations of the last 15 years. Kai aided with the permitted side, forming a detailed narrative of wrong identification and extended loss of memory. It was not ideal, but with his links and a bit of record adjustment, he succeeded to set a new identity for Zion, not as someone revived from the gone, but as someone who never truly passed. As for me, I went from grieving parent to parent of an adult offspring in a matter of days. It was odd, confusing, and marvelous. Zion was no longer the lad I forfeited, but a complex man with understanding and abilities that exceeded his earthly learning. Sometimes I discovered him gazing at the skyline with a far expression, as though he were viewing things none of us could understand. In those instants, I realized that part of him was yet linked to the opposite side, the mysterious place where his awareness had stayed for 15 years. One evening, resting on the veranda observing the stars, I inquired him if he longed for that place. Sometimes, he confessed, it was calm there in a manner, no material limits, no burden of straight period, but it lacked something crucial. What? I inquired. He grinned, that grin that was both known and new, this humanity link, the splendor of being existing with all its flaws and trials. It is worth being here, even understanding that one day I will have to depart again. I held his palm, larger, stronger, and more rough than the palm of the lad I interred, but yet unmistakably the palm of my offspring. When that day arrives, I will be ready to release you, I vowed. This time I will understand it is not farewell eternally. Zion agreed, his gaze reflecting the insight of someone who had existed between realms. It is never farewell eternally, mother. Only view you soon. I interred my offspring 15 years back. I went to his burial faithfully every Sunday. I retained his chamber intact as a haven to his recollection, and then, on a usual evening, my device sounded with a contact from past. Today he rests beside me, not as the lad I forfeited, but as the man he became on another level of existence. Passing, I learned, is not the conclusion of the narrative. Sometimes it is merely the start of a new and remarkable journey. Story the like you did, city which from listening you are and comments the in meatlets. Story the like you if, thanks super us sending by me support, can stories like this more bringing keep I so. Support sweet your for much so thank you. Story the on comments your to forward looking I'm. Screen the on, recommend highly I stories life new to see can you. Channel my on more much so theirs. Subscribe to My child passed away 15 years back in a terrible crash. I viewed him inside the coffin, touched his chilly flesh and dropped soil onto his burial spot. Yet last evening at 3:27 early morning, my mobile rang. His title appeared on the display, and upon answering, I listened to his puzzled tone inquiring, "Mother, where am I located? It is fully shadowy here. How does your pulse continue functioning when you detect the sound of a person you interred? But prior to proceeding, verify if you have joined the channel and note in the remarks from which place you view this clip." We enjoy discovering the extent our narratives reach. My name is Aller Vance, and for 15 years, I existed with a gap in my torso where my core once resided. My offspring Zion was merely 17 years old when he perished in a motorbike collision. An intoxicated motorist ignored a stop signal on a wet evening and struck him directly. In that instant, my legs gave way when the telephone sounded at 11:42 p.m. It was the medical center. Miss Ara Vance, parent of Zion Vance, that lone inquiry already contained every response I wished not to receive. They claim there exists a parental sense that alerts us when something awful occurs to our kids. Right then, even prior to the physician completing the phrase, I already understood. It resembled an unseen link that had constantly joined me to Zion being suddenly cut. The wake was hazy. I recall resting next to the coffin, incapable of weeping, gazing at my lad's countenance. He appeared as though slumbering, aside from the ashen shade of his flesh and the thick cosmetics attempting to hide the marks. I passed the entire evening stroking his frozen palm, pointlessly wishing his digits would grasp mine, as they did when he was small and required safety. At the burial ground, I placed a pale bloom onto the coffin as it descended into the earth. The noise of the soil striking the timber was the point truth finally crashed into me like a cargo locomotive. My offspring was gone. I would never detect his chuckle or sense his embrace again. I would never witness him complete studies, wed, or produce offspring. All that stayed of 17 years of existence were images, garments with his aroma, and recollections that would diminish over time. Zion's dad could not cope. 6 months post the service, Darius requested separation. He stated he could not gaze at me without recalling the offspring we misplaced. Perhaps he was correct. I could not gaze at him either without sensing that an individual was absent among us. Our 20-year union concluded with an inscription on chilly documents, another passing to include in my assortment of bereavements. While Darius advanced, he wed again and produced additional kids. I remained stuck in that burial. Zion's chamber stayed unchanged, a haven fixed in era. His garments were yet in the wardrobe, his faded footwear next to the mattress, his texts on the rack and on the table, the arithmetic task he never completed. I could not discard anything. Each item appeared to contain a portion of him that I declined to forfeit. Every Sunday, reliably, I went to his burial with new blooms. I tidied the marker, removed the plants, and spoke to him as though he could listen. I informed him about the week, the minor events that took place, the updates of the globe. Occasionally, I carried a volume and recited loudly because Zion constantly enjoyed when I recited to him prior to sleep. You ought to advance, individuals informed me, as if it were easy to abandon the kid who developed within my body, as if there existed a limit for a parent's sorrow. I attempted counseling, aid circles, mood medications. Nothing mended that injury. I merely learned to live with the ache, to bear it as a steady partner. For 15 years, I maintained Zion's mobile number operational. I settled the charge each month simply so I could ring sometimes and detect the answer message in his youth tone. "Hey, you have contacted Zion. Depart a note and I will ring you again. Thanks." Those brief moments of sound were like a gateway to a realm where he yet lived, where his tone yet resonated in the atmosphere. Perhaps it was insanity, but it was my method of retaining him existing. Individuals advanced. His companions finished school, wed, and produced children. The globe continued rotating without Zion within it. I continued inhaling, laboring as a preschool instructor, living in a state between existence and passing. I was not genuinely living, merely persisting from momentum, tallying the days until I could reunite with my offspring once more. That is when it occurred on a Wednesday, August 14th, 15 years post the collision. It was precisely 3:27 early when my mobile sounded, drawing me from an uneasy slumber. In the shadow of the chamber, the display shine lit the title I never anticipated viewing. Zion, no, it was not Zion. Do not respond, as I had relabeled the entry years prior, when I would ring the number simply to detect the answer message. It was merely Zion, as though someone had reinstated the initial entry. My pulse sped, striking against my ribs like a trapped creature. My palms were quivering so intensely I nearly released the device. It could not be actual. It must be a vision, a fault, some device error. Or perhaps reason had ultimately left me completely post years of existing with the shadow of bereavement. The device continued sounding persistently. 5, 6 tones. On the 7th, something within me broke. I responded for a few moments. I merely detected gradual, uncertain person inhaling. Hello? I murmured, my tone weakening. More quiet, and then, mother. The tone was his. There was no error. The identical sound, the identical manner he would mildly extend the term mother. Mother, where am I located? It is fully shadowy here. The atmosphere halted in my lungs. The chamber's surfaces appeared to shrink around me. This could not be occurring. Zion, that was everything I could handle as my whole form shook. Yes, it is me. I do not understand where I am. I cannot view anything. I am chilly. What occurred to me? I activated the light next to the mattress with quivering digits, as though the brightness could banish this insanity. My thoughts were launching in countless paths. It might be a harsh prank, someone who had taken his number, a sound illusion due to treatment and restless evenings. But that tone, I would identify that tone anywhere. Zion, is that truly you? I inquired, moisture flowing down my cheeks. How is this feasible? I do not understand, mother. His tone seemed far, bewildered. I recall the collision. I recall the precipitation, the vehicle illuminations approaching directly at me, and then nothing, merely shadow. And now I am here, but I do not understand where here is. I cannot view anything. I sense like I am caught. A cry left my throat. I rose, tripping across the chamber while grasping the device like a vital line. Zion, you perished 15 years back. I interred you, quiet on the opposite side, a quiet so thick I could nearly contact it. No, mother, I cannot be gone. I am speaking to you. I am reflecting, I am sensing. I merely cannot shift. All is firm around me. I sensed a cold travel down my back, firm like a coffin. My lord, could it be a clinic error? Someone announced gone too soon. Tales of individuals interred living spun in my thoughts in a flood of dread, but it was unfeasible. I viewed him at the wake. I contacted his chilly flesh. He was interred 15 years back. He could not be existing post all that period. Where are you presently? I inquired, attempting to maintain my tone stable. What do you observe around you? Nothing. It is totally shadowy. I can sense timber. I am resting on something solid. There is an odd aroma like soil and fungus. Mother, I am frightened. My blood halted in my vessels. He was outlining a coffin. How could he understand that? How could he be aware post 15 years? Calm, my offspring. The terms emerged automatically, parental sense overriding the alarm. I am going to aid you. Merely inform me how I can locate you. I do not understand. I merely recall the collision and then awakening here. Mother, how long did you state it has been? 15 years. Zion, my tone fractured. You perished in 2010. I detected his inhaling hasten, becoming frantic cries. It cannot be, it cannot, I am 17. How could I have forfeited 15 years of my existence? I seized the cabinet to avoid collapsing. The circumstance was ridiculous, unfeasible, and yet it was occurring. The tone of my offspring, my gone offspring, was resonating through the device with the identical clarity as when he lived. Zion, I am going to locate you, all right. I am going to locate a method. Even I did not trust what I was stating. But the urgency in his tone pushed me to vow anything. Merely do not end the contact. Please do not end. The power is fading, Mother. The alarm was clear in his tone. The device is blinking. I do not wish to be abandoned alone here. Wait, Zion, how are you contacting me? Where did you obtain a device? The inquiries burst in my thoughts, seeking some reason in that insanity. It was in my compartment, my previous mobile. I do not understand how it yet functions, but the display indicates the power is nearly gone. His previous mobile, the identical one interred with him at his desire in the document he composed at 16 during a stage when he was fixated with his own end. At the moment, we believed it was merely a youth fancy, but we honored his desire. Zion, heed me. I attempted to arrange my disordered ideas. Do you recall Cypress Grove Memorial Park in Stone Mountain? That is where we interred you in the east section, near the large oak. If you are in the coffin, that is where you are, burial ground. His tone quivered. I am truly gone. I do not understand any more, offspring. I do not understand what is occurring, but I am arriving there presently. Mother, the power is nearly. His tone started to interrupt, frightened. Please aid me. Zion, Zion, persist. I am arriving. I yelled into the device, but merely detected the contact-terminated tone. He had ended, or the power had expired. Shaking, I attempted to ring his number again. Nothing. Merely the automatic note stating the number did not exist, as though those short minutes of dialogue had never taken place. I did not pause to reflect on the reason or the unfeasibility of the circumstance. I placed a coat over my sleepwear, seized my vehicle keys, and dashed to the storage. It was almost 4:00 early when I drove wildly through the empty roads of Atlanta, ignoring stop signals, my pulse striking so intensely it sensed like it would burst. The burial ground would be shut at that time, but I understood the evening guardian, Mr. Silas. Over years of Sunday trips, we had created a quiet bond. He constantly permitted me to remain a few minutes beyond ending when I misplaced track of period speaking to Zion's burial. I stopped haphazardly at the burial ground entry and dashed to the protector area. Mr. Silas was resting in a seat, but aroused startled by my frantic striking on the pane. Ms. Aller, what occurred? It is 4 early. I require entry, Silas, now. It is critical. It concerns my offspring. He gazed at me as though I had misplaced my thoughts, and perhaps I had your lad, but amiss. All he, I understand, it appears mad. I cut, but I require to go to his burial presently. Please. Something in my urgent gaze must have persuaded him, because he agreed, seized a set of keys and a torch. I will accompany you. It is not secure to be solitary here in the shadow. I lacked period to appreciate him. I was already dashing down the rock trail I understood so well, lit merely by the light of the decreasing moon. Mr. Silas was directly after me, gasping, attempting to match my frantic speed. 15 years of going to the identical location forms an exact mental guide. Even in the shadow, I understood how to locate the path to Zion's burial, left at the Almeida tomb, right at the messenger figure, pursue the cypress trail to the large oak. And there, under the shade of the ages-old tree, was the stone marker with his title, Zion Eduardo Vance. 1993-2010, cherished offspring, eternally in our cores. I dropped to my knees before the burial, the globe rotating around me. What did I anticipate to discover? What was I seeking? A contact from past the burial did not imply I could excavate him and discover him existing. 15 years is excessive. Even if there had been some error, even if he had been interred living, an idea that sent tremors of dread down my back, there would be no method to endure that long below ground. Ms. Zara, Mr. Silas neared worried, "Are you fine?" I did not respond. My gaze were set on the ground over the burial, solid, whole soil, covered by a layer of maintained grass that I myself had set years back. No indication of disruption, nothing to show that someone or something had come from there. He contacted me, Silas. I whispered without removing my gaze from the burial. My Zion contacted me less than half an hour back. The guardian put a palm on my shoulder, his tone mild. "Mara, you experienced a vision." It occurs when we forfeit someone we cherish. It was not a vision. I yelled, thrusting his palm away. I was alert. I responded the device. It was his tone. I began rubbing the grass with my nails, attempting to excavate, to tear at the soil with my bare palms. It was insanity. I understood it. A burial is nearly 6 ft profound. I would never reach the coffin that manner, but logic had left me the instant I detected my offspring's tone on the device. "Miss Ara, please." Mr. Silas seized my wrists, stopping me from persisting that futile effort. "You will injure yourself. This is not usual," and I collapsed in moisture, coating my face with the soil from my palms. He stated it is shadowy. He stated he is caught. Frightened Silas, I cried uncontrollably. "How can I abandon him like that? How?" The guardian assisted me rise, supporting me as I quivered. "I am going to bring you residence. You are extremely distressed. Tomorrow all will appear altered." But I understood it would not. Nothing would be identical post that contact. If I could not excavate my offspring with my own palms, I required to discover another method to comprehend what was occurring. His device, I whispered as Mr. Silas led me from the burial ground. It was with him in the coffin. How could it function post so many years? How could it have power? How could it obtain a connection down there? The guardian did not respond, likely believing I was raving, and perhaps I was. Perhaps the isolation and sorrow had ultimately eroded what remained of my reason, and I was imagining, forming an alternate truth where my offspring could yet reach me somehow. I drove residence in a trance, gaze set on the shadowy path ahead of me. Mr. Silas demanded on trailing me in his vehicle to ensure I entered securely. I vowed him I would attempt to relax, that I would contact my physician in the dawn. Pale deceptions to soothe, a kind man who was concerned about me. As soon as I shut the entrance, I hurried to the device and attempted to contact Zion's number again. Nothing. The identical note that the number did not exist. I attempted 10, 20 additional times, always with the identical outcome. I rested in the cooking area quivering, attempting to arrange my ideas. I required aid. I required someone who would trust me. At minimum, feign trust while I determined what was occurring. Darius, Zion's dad. If there was anyone who could comprehend, it would be him. Even with our bond worsened post the separation, we shared affection for our offspring. I gazed at the time, 5:12 early, too soon for a usual contact, but this had ceased being a usual circumstance. I entered his number, which I yet knew by memory, even post all these years. Post 4 tones, I detected his drowsy tone. "Elara, is that you? Is something incorrect?" "Darius," my tone quivered. "I require to inform you something. It is going to appear mad, but I require you to heed." I informed him all. The contact, Zion's tone, the device in the coffin, my frantic journey to the burial ground. I anticipated him to cut me, to label me mad, to propose mental care, but Darius merely heeded in quiet, inhaling heavily on the opposite end of the line. When I completed, there was an extended moment of quiet. "Do you trust me?" I inquired eventually, my tone small and unsure. "I do not understand what to trust, Ara." His tone appeared oddly managed. "But I understand you would not invent something like this." "Not about Zion. I require your aid. I require to comprehend what is occurring. What do you wish to perform? Remove the remains. The terms emerged prior to I could reflect. I require to be certain, Darius. I require to view what is down there. More quiet, then you understand that is nearly unfeasible, correct. We would require legal permission. It is going to require period. And even if we obtain it, 15 years, there will not be much to view. I understand, but I require to attempt. If there is the slightest possibility that some error occurred, I will be there in an hour, he stated, astonishing me. We will speak in person. I ended the contact and rested in the cooking area shadow, still, attempting to handle all that had occurred during that unreal dawn. Part of me wished to trust it was merely a clear vision, that I had dozed on the sofa and my thoughts had performed a harsh prank on me. But I understood it was not accurate. The contact had been actual. The tone was Zion's. My offspring was attempting to reach me from somewhere between existence and passing. Darius reached in less than an hour. His graying locks were disordered, profound rings under his gaze. When I opened the entrance, I viewed the identical man who had been my spouse for 20 years, now aged with deeper creases in his face. But his gaze held the identical look, Zion's gaze, which he had received from his dad. You appear awful, he stated, attempting to ease the strain with wit. You are not appearing your finest either, I answered, allowing him entry. We rested in the relaxing area, the quiet heavy among us. It had been years since we had been like this, face to face, solitary. Our uncommon gatherings post the separation always occurred in open spots, frequently with his new spouse and kids present. Inform me every aspect again, he requested, bending ahead with his elbows on his knees. I repeated the entire narrative, adding aspects I had overlooked the initial time. The precise sound of Zion's tone, his uneven inhaling, the outline of the shadow and the firm area, the mobile, Darius cut. You stated he has the mobile in the coffin. Yes, do you not recall? It was one of the desires in his document. Darius agreed gradually. I recall that odd stage when he noted what he wished if he passed. We did not picture that he would truly pass so young. I finished an aged Nokia, correct, one of those unbreakable ones. Yes, I concurred, recalling the azure device Zion cherished. But yet, Darius, 15 years below ground, the power would not endure that long, and how would he obtain a connection down there? It does not add up, he concurred, unless what? Unless it is not truly coming from the burial. Darius rose, pacing uneasily around the relaxing area. Have you reflected that it could be something else, someone performing a prank on you, perhaps someone who understands about the mobile interred with him? I shook my head strongly. No, Darius, it was his tone. No one could mimic it like that, and who would be so harsh. Darius passed a palm through his graying locks, a motion that reminded me so much of Zion that I sensed a stab in my torso. So, what are you proposing? That our offspring somehow succeeded to contact you from within the coffin 15 years post-passing. He halted, selecting his terms. You require to examine other options. Perhaps you require aid. You believe I am mad. It was not an inquiry. I did not state that. He rested again, holding my palms in his enclosed motion we had not shared in years. I am stating that sorrow performs odd things to the thoughts. You never overcame his passing. You truly never advanced. I withdrew my palms, shifting apart. How did you advance with your ideal new spouse and your ideal new children? That is not just, Lara. His tone firmed. I forfeited my offspring, too. I ached, too. I merely selected to manage it differently. I shut my gaze. Attempting to settle, debating with Darius would not aid me locate responses, and deep inside I understood he was correct. It was a ridiculous, unfeasible narrative. Any logical person would question it. I am going to attempt contacting him again, I stated, seizing the device before him. You will view. I entered Zion's number once more, placing it on loudspeaker. The automatic note sounded loud and clear. The number you have entered does not exist. See, Darius stated mildly. The device in my palm began quivering, cutting him. On the display, the title Zion appeared again. It is him, I shouted, nearly tossing the item. Are you viewing this? Are you viewing this? Darius's face became pale. He was viewing it. There was no rejecting it. With quivering palms, I responded to the contact and placed it on loudspeaker. Zion, I called, my tone scarcely functioning. Mother. His tone sounded far, interrupted, as though the link was poor. Mother. I succeeded to charge the device a little. There is a brightness now. Darius lifted a palm to his mouth, gaze broad with astonishment. He was detecting the identical tone I was. Zion. I called louder. Your father is here. With me, we are on loudspeaker. Father, his tone appeared more awake. Father, is that you? Darius gulped, moisture in his gaze. Yes, offspring, it is me. What is occurring to me? Why are they stating? I am gone. I recall the collision, but then all is vague. I gazed at Darius, unsure what to state. How do you clarify to someone that they have been gone for 15 years? Zion. Darius assumed control. His tone choked. You stated there is a brightness now. What are you viewing? There is a kind of torch here. It was in my coat compartment along with the device. I do not understand how it yet functions, but I can view a little now. I am in a timber container. It is tiny. I can scarcely shift. I sensed the blood halt in my vessels. He was outlining the coffin. What else do you view? Darius inquired, holding my palm firmly. There is a pale fabric, and I am donning weight. It is not my garments. It is an outfit. I never possessed an outfit like this. The service garments. The outfit we purchased for him to be interred in. Darius and I shared gazes of dread. Zion. My tone quivered. Attempt to force the cover. View if you can unlock it. We detected noises of effort moans. I cannot. It is too weighty. It senses like there is something atop. Soil, perhaps. Darius seized the device from my palm, holding it nearer to his face. Zion, heed me. We require to comprehend what is occurring. How long have you been aware in there? I do not understand. His tone sounded annoyed. It is like I merely aroused from an extended bewildering vision. I recall portions of my existence, institution, companions, you both. But there are many vague things. It is like I have been slumbering for an extended period, and the collision. What do you recall? It was precipitating. Returning from Jada's residence, the cycle slipped on the bend. I viewed the illuminations approaching at me very rapidly. Then ache, much ache, and then nothing until I aroused here in the shadow. The outline matched precisely what we understood about the collision, the authorities' accounts, the observer statements. Zion, I called, seizing the device back. What is the final date you recall? March 10th, 2010. A Wednesday, I possessed a science exam. The following day, Darius and I gazed at each other again. March 10th, 2010, the day of the collision, precisely 15 years back. And do you recall, I paused, not understanding how to inquire. Do you recall passing, quiet on the opposite end, merely his uneven inhaling? I do not understand. His tone was nearly a murmur. Now I recall the ache. Then a sensation of drifting like I was being drawn upward. Vivid illuminations, tones I did not identify, and then shadow until I aroused here. Mother, father, am I truly gone? How do you respond that? How do you inform your own offspring that he did pass, was viewed, grieved, and interred? Zion, Darius assumed, sparing me from needing to respond. Something very odd is occurring. We require to probe. Do you believe you can sustain contact with us? How much power does the device yet have? 30%, I believe. I do not understand how it is yet functioning post. How long did you state? 15 years, I answered, my tone weakening. It is 2025, offspring. My lord, he appeared to be attempting to take in the data. So, I would be 32 now. It is so strange to reflect about. It senses like I was in secondary institution yesterday. For him, it truly had been. Period had halted at the instant of the strike that claimed his existence. 15 years in a flash. Zion, Darius stated, taking a more useful tone. We require to discover a method to confirm all this to comprehend what is occurring. You stated you have a torch. Can you examine around? View if there is anything else with you in the coffin. I will attempt. We detected noises of motion limited by the tiny area. There are some dried blooms, a prayer chain, and a package. A package? I inquired, astonished. What type of package? It appears like a note. It has my title inscribed on it. The script is yours, Mother. The note, I had fully overlooked about it. The evening prior to the service, I composed a farewell note to Zion and requested for it to be put in the coffin. A last message for my offspring. Terms I did not have opportunity to state while he lived. Can you unlock it? I inquired, recalling the close and aching content of that note composed at the peak of despair. Yes, I am unlocking it. My dearest Zion, he started reciting loudly, if there is a realm past this one, understand that you are reciting these terms and sensing all the affection your mother has for you. He persisted reciting, and every term was like a blade cutting my core. Terms composed 15 years back on an evening of intolerable ache. Now returning to me in the tone of the offspring they were directed to. And one day, when my period arrives, we will be united again. Until then, I will cherish you and long for you with every inhale. Your mother eternally. His tone broke as he completed reciting. You composed this for me. Yes, I verified, moisture flowing freely down my face. The evening prior to your service, so it is accurate. Zion's tone sounded overcome. I am truly gone, interred. But then, how am I aware? How am I speaking to you? It was the inquiry that troubled all of us, an inquiry for which we had no response. I do not understand, offspring, Darius answered, placing an arm around my shoulders in a guarding motion that astonished me. But we are going to determine it. I vow you we are not going to abandon you solitary in this. The power is fading again. Zion stated, his tone suddenly worried, I only have 10% now. It is going to shut off soon. Zion, heed. I spoke rapidly. We are going to attempt to discover what is occurring. We are going to discover a method to aid you. Merely do not lose hope. It is all right. We are here. We are going to locate you somehow. I am frightened, Mother, he murmured, suddenly sounding like the lad who used to dash to my mattress during storms. I am frightened of being abandoned solitary in the shadow when the power expires. I am frightened you will not be able to locate me. We are going to locate you. I vowed. Even though I had no idea how to maintain that vow, merely persist, attempt to conserve the power, only contact if it is truly vital. All right. All right, he concurred, his tone feeble. Father, Mother, I cherish you. We cherish you too, offspring. We answered together, just like in the past days when he was small and we were placing him to rest. The contact ended suddenly. The device display returned to usual, as though nothing remarkable had occurred, but the moisture in Darius's gaze verified that he had detected it, too. It was not an illusion. It was not insanity. Somehow, our offspring was reaching us from past the burial. What do we perform now? I inquired, cleaning my moisture with the rear of my palm. Darius rose, pacing the chamber, his logical builder's mind clearly operating extra. We require to be systematic. First, set the truths. What do we understand for certain? We understand Zion passed 15 years back. We understand we interred him. We understand that somehow he is aware and succeeded to contact us, and what does that imply? Darius rubbed his face, suddenly appearing much aged. It is unfeasible for him to be existing in the coffin, not post 15 years. I understand. I quivered at the idea of the consequences. So what? Spirit, uneasy soul, some type of remaining awareness. Darius had always been the more doubtful of us, a man of knowledge who trusted only in what he could view and contact. Viewing him now, examining supernatural options, showed how much that contact had impacted him. I do not understand, but I understand we require aid. He seized his device. I am contacting Kai. Kai Lewis, Darius's closest companion since university, a medical examiner who labored at the area morgue. someone who would comprehend the knowledge aspects of the circumstance. Do you believe it is wise to include more individuals? I questioned anxiously. What if he believes we are mad? Kai understands me sufficiently to understand I would not invent something like this. Darius was already entering. We require someone who comprehends the knowledge part, and also, we are going to require some type of permission to remove the remains. The term removal made my belly twist. The notion of excavating Zion, of viewing what remained of him post 15 years, was too upsetting. Do you truly believe we ought to perform that? I inquired, my tone low. Darius gazed at me with a gravity I had not viewed in years. If that were you, caught somewhere between existence and passing, would you not wish us to perform all in our ability to aid you? He was correct. If there was any possibility of aiding our offspring, we required to attempt. No matter how disturbing the notion was, Kai departed shortly post, vowing to instantly begin the procedure for the removal permission. Darius chose to remain with me, placing on the relaxing area sofa. It was odd to have him back in the residence we shared for so many years. The residence where we nurtured our offspring, the residence he left when the sorrow became intolerable. Evening arrived, carrying with it a shadow that appeared thicker, more pressing than usual. Neither of us could slumber. We remained in the relaxing area, Darius on the sofa, me in the seat. The quiet heavy among us, interrupted only by the rare call of a bird or the murmur of foliage in the breeze outside. You yet retain his items, do you not? Darius suddenly inquired, gazing toward the corridor that led to Zion's chamber. Yes, I confessed, I did not alter anything. He agreed without criticism. Can I view? I led him down the passage to the chamber that had stayed unchanged for 15 years. I opened the entrance gradually, as though afraid of arousing someone. The aroma of particles and halted period greeted us. The drapes were closed, but I activated the brightness, showing the haven I had constructed for my offspring. The mattress was yet prepared with the hero cover he cherished, even though it was a child's item for 17-year-old. The table had learning text stacked on it, an incomplete arithmetic task in the open book, music group images on the surfaces, a pair of faded footwear next to the mattress, and his instrument in the corner coated in particles, quieted by period. Darius stood in the entry, absorbing it all. I viewed his palms quiver mildly. You blamed me of advancing too rapidly. He stated, mildly, perhaps you are correct. But perhaps it is because I could not perform this. I could not maintain the recollections like you did. He walked gradually through the chamber, contacting the items with respect. He halted before the award rack, aquatic, strategy, knowledge contests. Zion had always been a smart lad, meant for grand things, an existence suddenly cut before it could completely develop. View this. Darius lifted a small dark book from a partly open table compartment, his diary. My pulse sped. I never had the bravery to recite it. Me neither. He held the book carefully as though it were a valuable relic. Perhaps we ought to now. Perhaps there is something in here that can aid us comprehend. We rested on Zion's mattress, adjacent, the diary among us. With quivering digits, Darius opened to the initial page. January 10th, 2010. He recited loudly. I experienced that vision again. The one about the collision so actual. I aroused in a cold perspiration. In the vision, I am riding my cycle in the precipitation. I view the illuminations getting nearer. I sense the strike. Then I am drifting above all, observing my own damaged form on the pavement. It is terrifying, but also oddly calm. We shared worried gazes. The vision's outline corresponded precisely to the collision that would claim his existence 2 months later. A tremor traveled down my back. Darius persisted reciting, flipping the pages carefully. The notes outlined the daily existence of a usual youth. Tests, companions, the lass he favored, disputes with his guardians, but there was something else, something troubling that was repeated in several notes. Visions about his own passing, always the identical situation, always the identical sensation of observing from outside. March 1st, 2010, Darius recited, his tone heavy. Just 10 days prior to the collision, the vision became more strong. This time I viewed the service. I viewed Mother weeping over my coffin. I viewed Father attempting to be firm, but collapsing when he believed no one was observing. I viewed my companions standing in a group, not understanding what to state. It is so clear that I am beginning to ponder if they are truly visions or something else. Forecasts alerts. I am frightened, but also interested. My inhaling stopped. Zion had envisioned about his own passing, his own service, weeks prior to it occurred. He understood, I whispered, amazed. Somehow he understood what was going to occur. Darius flipped to the final note. It was dated March 10th, 2010, the day of the collision. Today is the day. I do not understand how I am so certain, but I am. Last evening's vision was so actual that I can yet sense the strike, the metal ripping my flesh, the bones fracturing. I ought to be terrified, but oddly, I am not. It is like it is unavoidable, like it is meant. If something occurs to me today, I wish Mother and Father to understand I cherish them more than anything. And I also wish them to understand that it will not be the conclusion. Somehow, I am going to discover a method back to them. I am going to discover a method to state I am fine, that I merely altered shapes. P.S. If I am correct, please inter my mobile with me. It might appear strange, but I have a sensation I am going to require it. The diary dropped from Darius's palms. The quiet that ensued was thick, filled with unfeasible consequences. He understood, I repeated, my tone nearly silent. They were not merely visions. He viewed the future, and he understood that somehow, someday, he was going to reach us. The mobile, Darius whispered. He requested to be interred with the device because he understood he was going to utilize it to communicate with us. The comprehension of what was occurring began to shape in our thoughts, yet unclear, yet partial, but with clearer edges. Zion had somehow predicted his own passing, had readied for it, and now, 15 years later, he was fulfilling his vow to discover a method back to us. As though replying to our ideas, my mobile sounded. Zion's title appeared on the display. We responded together, Darius bending in to heed. Zion, I called, my pulse striking. Mother, Father. His tone sounded altered now, stronger, more confident. You are in my chamber, correct. You merely completed reciting my diary. I was frozen with astonishment. How? How do you understand that? I can view you, he answered calmly. I do not understand how to clarify it. It is like I am in two locations simultaneously. I am yet here in the shadow, but I can also watch, like in the visions I used to experience. Darius seized the device, his gaze broad with astonishment. Zion, are you stating you can view us? Presently, yes. Mother is donning that azure top I gave her for Parents' Day many years back. You are holding my aquatic award from the state event. It was accurate. Darius had merely seized the award from the rack as we spoke. There was no method Zion could understand, that unless he could truly view us. My lord, Darius whispered, this is frightening. I understand, Zion finished. It is for me too. I am learning to manage this. At first, it was merely shadow, but now it is like I can extend my awareness outward, view things, detect things. Can you view other individuals besides us? I inquired, attempting to grasp the extent of this unfeasible capability. Yes, I can view Kai at the office presently, completing documents. You are handling the removal, are you not? A tremor traveled down my back. How did he understand about Kai? How did he understand about the removal? Zion, what is occurring to you? Darius inquired, his tone quivering. Are you gone, existing? What? There was a halt prior to the response. I do not understand precisely. My form is here, but it is not existing in the usual sense. It is maintained somehow, as though period has halted for it, but my awareness is somewhere else, in many locations simultaneously. This is unfeasible, Darius whispered, the logical builder fighting against the supernatural proof. Many things are unfeasible until they occur. Zion answered, Mother always used to state that. Recall, it was accurate. It was one of my preferred sayings when Zion was small and stated something was unfeasible. Offspring, I inquired, attempting to comprehend it all. Why now? Why delay 15 years to reach us? I did not delay. His tone sounded nearly astonished. For me, it was like arousing from an extended slumber. I did not realize so much. Period had gone, but now that I am awake, I can sense period in an altered manner. I can view what I forfeited. I can view how much you ached, and I can view that perhaps I can come back. Come back? Darius and I spoke together. What does that imply? I am not certain, Zion confessed, but I understand you require to unlock the burial. I require you to remove me from there. There is something that requires to be performed, something I cannot clarify yet, like a sense. Darius and I gazed at each other, frightened and hopeful simultaneously. The notion of Zion coming back somehow was as unfeasible as it was marvelous. We are attempting offspring, Darius assured him. Kai is managing the documents for the removal, but it might require days, perhaps a week. That is too delayed. Zion's tone answered, critical. The link is strengthening, but it is short term. I sense like there is a period of chance. If we overlook it, I might not be able to come back. How much period do we have? I inquired, urgency increasing. 3 days, perhaps less. It is difficult to clarify, but I can sense it like a wave that ascends and descends. I am at the height now, but it will begin to reduce soon. Darius rose resolute. I am going to speak to Kai. We are going to hasten the procedure. If we do not obtain the permission in period, he did not complete the phrase, but I comprehended what he meant. We would perform whatever required, permitted or not. There is something else, Zion persisted, his tone suddenly grave. I am not solitary here. There are others like me. Individuals caught between realms. Some are bewildered, frightened. Others are upset. Not everyone has kind motives. A tremor traveled down my back. What do you imply? Some wish to come back for the incorrect causes. Revenge, fixation, authority. If they discover a method back like I am attempting to perform, it would be risky.